Welcome to season 2 of Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentesana. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and trailblazers who share their raw, real stories of perseverance, resilience, and building a life and business with impact. We talk about everything from entrepreneurship and family to purpose and living fully. My goal is to inspire you to start that dream, push through the hard seasons, and wake up every single day ready to live the life you were born to live with passion and purpose. Welcome back, everyone, to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm so excited about today's episode. And for all of you moms, you are really going to want to tune into this one. We have Laura Elbyr here, and she is here to share with us about her new upcoming podcast that's going to be launched most likely in February. It's called Better Than the Medal. And this was actually an idea that sparked out of a relationship, obviously, with her son, who is a great athlete. The kind of the pressures that kids going through youth sports go through and the impact that it has on them, but also really this idea that the medal or winning is the most important thing. And so Laura, along with 2 other partners, has created this podcast. I can't wait for it to launch and listen to the first episode. Their very first guest was Terrell Owens, T.O., if you know him and you're a sports fanatic and a San Francisco, 49ers fan.
Baby.
Yeah, so he was their very first guest and since then has been inspired by what they're doing and is supporting the show as well. So Laura, without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jen. I am so honored and excited to be here. I felt so lucky when you called. I recently joined your mastermind group, which I feel so lucky to be with these amazing women. And it was after one of my best friends shared your book with me. And as I started reading the pages, I felt like, oh, she's speaking my language. She's sharing the things that I feel I've been going through on my own journey as a mom and a wife, and just showing up and how we want to leave an impact or legacy in this life. And sometimes you get stuck and then you meet wonderful people that help push the needle.
Well, that's the whole idea, right? Is like that we surround ourselves with people who are kind of like maybe doing the things that we want to be doing or are thinking about doing and are just opening us up to more opportunities to continue to do that. So thank you for saying that. And I want our listeners to really understand and dive into your story about how you got to this point, because you are a mom. You've been supporting your husband and his business in a logistics company for several years, kind of doing his thing, his dream. But you really started out with your own dream yourself.
That's
right. Yeah. And you I think you said you had a commercial on Comedy Central.
Comedy Central, honey. I thought Academy Awards, here I come. And then seeing not much happened after that. I mean, that's not true. I came to LA after the commercial, which was so exciting. It aired internationally. Wow. I got to play this totally psycho mom. And I could hear the other girls through the audition room. And I was like, no, they want your nightmare. And I went in there and Eric, I just let it rip. And the casting agent was like, I can't believe that came out of you. That was before I was a mom. And once I came down here, I got into Groundlings. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's a comedy school, improv. My dream was Saturday Night Live. I have lots of characters inside of me. And then when I got down here, I think I was kind of tired of being the starving artist. I met my husband very quickly after moving here, and that was probably one of my best decisions to date. But as I started weaving through life, he had a business that he was launching, and I started helping him with that. And I realized that I wasn't really believing in myself at that time. I think that there was a moment. Actually, I remember the day this was a pivotal moment. I'm just remembering this. I was in Groundlings class, and at this next level, you get to go to the writing lab, where when you start writing, that's when you really can have the opportunity to try out for SNL. And Will Ferrell's partner from Funny or Die was teaching our class that day. And, when you're doing that, you can't just go in and wing it. You're at the point where you can bring your talent, but you really have to hone your craft. And I was trying to do other things. I was helping Luca, working, and I wasn't prepared that day. And I got on stage, and all of a sudden my mind went blank. and it was like a little white rabbit. That's all I saw. And I failed on stage, basically. And then when I got off, that's when I had a flip phone. I pretended I got a call, and I was like, excuse me, I have to leave. And I actually never went back to class.
Wow.
And I had worked very hard to get to this point. And oh my gosh, I wasn't even honest with Luca at that time. I didn't tell him that I had quit. I still was showing, I was trying to write and do a few things. I know, that's really crazy. And then I got into another play, and one of my teachers was in the play, and I was going down the stairs. He was coming up, and he said, "What the heck happened to you?"
Oh, one of your teachers from Groundlings.
From Groundlings. And I said, I panicked that day. I wasn't prepared, and I walked out. And he said, "Get over yourself, Laura." He's like, "Do you know how many times that happens to all of us?"
Yeah.
Like, show up, get back up there. But that was a time when I didn't have it in me, and I didn't go back. So I kind of put that to the side.
Wow.
So that was something that I think I've carried with me in the back of my mind for a long time. And when you're doing that, I guess there's a part of me that I have felt like I was living inauthentically, even though I was trying to show up in life the best I could. But
interesting.
And then Luca would tell me, he'd say, "Honey, go back to acting class because you're bringing the drama to me."
Yeah, that's wow. That is an incredible story.
I had just remembered that as we're sitting here.
You just remembered that. That's pretty fascinating because there's so much to unpack there.
Right.
But I really want to hone in on the fact that we all have failures, right? We all go through moments in life where we are on that stage and we bomb. Right. And it takes a lot of courage to go back and face that failure. It's not just failure for yourself. You're doing it in front of an audience. And a lot of people who haven't experienced that don't know what that feels like.
Right.
But there's shame. There's all kinds of feelings of insecurity and lack of self-worth and all those things that you're dealing with. So to get back up there right away takes a lot of courage. To go back to that class takes a lot of courage. And a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that. I think what's interesting is now you're revisiting that part of yourself.
Yes, finally, 20 plus years later. Let's not age me.
Wow.
Maybe not a full 20, but yes, that was a really long time ago. And, after I stepped away from that, I was working at that time, the life of an artist, you're always doing several things. And I was catering, which most artists do, I guess. And I ended up... I started a wedding planning business out of this because I wanted to keep the creativity. I was J-Lo at that time. No one could see a sweat. You had to get her down the aisle. So I think maybe I felt like I was still acting. And Luca was launching his business. So I think between the two, I felt like maybe I was getting that performance side and I was starting to make money and he was doing things. So I kind of told myself, this is the path I have to take. And then as I got deeper into that, I realized I wasn't really following my true passion. And it got easier for me to really put my focus on helping Luca launch something. And I saw that there was real potential there. And I believed so much in him. I was believing in him a lot more than I was believing in myself, I guess.
Girl, I can so relate to this story because I did the same thing with my husband's business. So I know.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
And I think, I want to say I'm so proud of my husband. This is where I get a little emotional, though. He moved from Tunisia, and I had never heard of Tunisia when we met. I said, "Tanzania?" And he's like, "Another blonde that doesn't know her geography." And he just was such a vibrant, great guy, and I was taken with him pretty instantly. And then I thought, I can't marry a guy from Africa. And the more we got to know each other, he just showed up for me in such a beautiful way. And he's my best decision to date, I will say. But, he was a hardware engineer in Tunisia, and then he came over here. And he actually really didn't even speak English, a lot of English. But he speaks 6 languages, so let's not feel bad for the guy. I always tell him, you have to put in your signature, if there's misspellings, I'm thinking in 5 other languages.
Oh, that's funny.
But as he was, he was a dishwasher, then he started moving. A friend of his needed someone to move something. And then he was dating a girl that was working for a high-end furniture company. And it just started parlaying from there. So when we met, he was bartending and just doing this kind of little delivery company. And then as things got more serious, I told him, I'll never marry a bartender, so you better get moving, honey. But as I watched him, it was really inspiring to me that he was really creating something out of nothing. Like he just went full force. And now, so many years later, he has a great book of business. We're just moving into another warehouse. So he's really created something. And along that, I was pushing him probably a lot. And I think through that time, I was doing things that probably weren't me. I started taking on HR, and then I realized I was taking classes. I was dealing with lawyers, things that really were not my language at all. And I started losing who I was, And I think one of the hardest things for business owners are the different personality types and learning how to manage that.
Yes,
that's a whole. That's a whole nother podcast.
Exactly. Well, managing personalities,
Yes.
being able to empower your employees. I think when people go into entrepreneurship or business, they think, oh, I'm going to get to do what I love. And what ends up happening is like, maybe you get to do that 30 or 40% of the time. And the rest of the time, you're doing all these other roles that come with running a business. And it's learning how to manage all of that, as you said, and also the employees and all the different personalities that you're dealing with. And so you learn a lot about yourself when you're doing that.
Well, and I think too, like I would always we would be like, your dream team is really finding your strengths and weaknesses to make them balance. But a lot of times, I think some of the people that are the risk takers, they're so creative and they don't have a lot of the other aspects. And so you learn as a business owner, like, how do you be a good boss? How do you not have a bleeding heart? Where do you set the boundaries? Where is this? And then, insurance comes in and then you have issues. There's so many things involved. And because this was Luca's baby, he looked at it very differently than I did. And I think he and I are different too. He's a really big picture guy, and I'm more of like the little details, like, wait. So we balanced each other out well in that. Working together, I think he has two different personalities. He is the life of the party outside of work, and he gets into business mode. And I think sometimes our employees don't even know he's funny. I'm like, honey, be yourself. Yeah. I, on the other hand, I'm the same all the way across. So as we started to work together, there were a lot of beautiful moments. And there were times that I felt like I was probably emasculating my husband sometimes. And that was the last thing I wanted, because this was my lover, my best friend, like the guy that I think is so amazing. But there were times if I didn't see him doing something that I thought was right, I think that, I don't know if he took it the wrong way. I don't, these are things that we're still probably figuring out. But that's why I knew it was important that I start to get back to myself.
I mean, obviously, when you started to connect with the fact that you might be emasculating him, or because believe
that just
me,
came out too. I don't know if I was expecting to talk about that right now.
No, that's okay, and that's why this is where passion meets purpose.
Because you never know. With him at home, he's going to be like, "Babe, what are we talking about?"
You never know what's going to come up. But when you're working with your spouse,
right?
When you're working with your spouse, as David and Jessica are here in the studio, they know as well as we know that there's stuff that you have work Jen and mom Jen and wife Jen, and you try to combine all the three. The same with Laura and David, Jessica. We're all just doing the best we can in those relationships, navigating that balance, and it's not always easy.
Right.
And I definitely noticed that with myself as well. Like when our restaurant got to a certain point where, we were just butting heads about, after the pandemic, which way to take the business forward. I started to say, you know what, maybe I need to step out and let him do his thing and let him run this the way he needs to run it, because this isn't my vision. This isn't my baby, and this certainly isn't my passion. And so what was that moment for you when that hit you?
Okay. Well, it wasn't pretty, guys. Some health stuff came up for me. So after my son was born, they thought I was type 2 diabetic. I came in a little overweight. My dad had diabetes. One of my grandmas passed away from diabetes, and it just kind of came back, oh, your A1C is high, so let's talk about this type 2 diabetes. And I was like, what? So I went on this journey of really trying to follow the doctor's orders, and I would gain 30 pounds, lose 30 pounds, gain 30. I was just not getting better. And I think at that time, too, trying to work so hard, it was kind of a mess. So I almost ended up in a coma. I had a really horrible thing happen at work. And I kind of lost it. Oh my God, is it okay that I'm just going to be really real on here?
Yeah, please.
Luca had been out of town, and we had just had this whole new we redid our handbook, our drug and alcohol policy. In the state of California, I think was marijuana being legalized at that time. So these were things we had to look at with our drivers. I had catered a breakfast. I had done all of this stuff, and I caught some guys drinking on the job.
Oh, wow.
At our warehouse. And I lost it, you guys. They probably still call me Karen. No, I'm kidding. They don't work for us anymore. But I was so stunned that, one, I just expect everyone's going to have the same integrity as us, and sometimes they don't. And I just felt so, it was a backhand. I just couldn't believe it. And I felt like these were employees that we had worked hard for, and Luca was gone. But I lost my mind. I was screaming and yelling. We actually had some new guys, and I was like, get our lawyer on the phone. I took the thing. I went crazy.
Wow.
And a new guy was standing there, and I was like, and now you see I take drugs and alcohol very seriously. It was not good.
Yeah.
And the next week, I ended up in the hospital, and they found out that I was actually type 1 diabetic. So probably at that time, my sugars already weren't good, and this just took it to a whole new level. And the doctor put me on a medical leave. But at that time, they didn't know medical leave really meant leaving my husband, right? So, but my health was first and foremost, and Luca was like, we need to do whatever we need to do. And we had a great team. We have some amazing girls in the office. We have an amazing crew. We just had to get a couple of the ones out that weren't doing the best. But at that time, I think in my mind, we both thought that I would be back a lot faster. But I was really struggling. I think because of this misdiagnosis for so long, the doctors told me, they said, we can't even believe you're alive. And I said, well, honey, I'm a fighter. Yeah. Clearly I'm meant to still be here. But so through this, I'm finally on an insulin pump now. I've gained a lot of weight from that. And that was another hard thing, as I was really I thought I was trying to get healthy then. And so through this time, the beautiful part of it is that I was really there to be there more for our son. So that was very exciting, that I felt like I was more present with him. I got off social media at that time for a while, and that was really powerful.
Wow.
And Luca showed up in such a way, he never made me feel bad. He was, obviously, he was like, I want you to be alive. But I do think that there came this point. Now it's been almost 2 years, a year and a half. There was a point about a year ago when he was like, what's happening? When are you coming back? And I said to myself, I don't know if I can actually ever really go back into that environment, but I know you can do this. Wow. And we haven't found, I think that there's still probably a lot of holes, in certain things, but there's been a lot of growth also. He's done really amazing. Yeah. And at that time, I actually got a voiceover agent, and I started doing a little bit of voiceover auditions again, which felt really good.
Wow.
And then my son, hilarious, two of my dear friends that we've been, we were auditioning for years, both of our kids, her daughter booked a lead in a Disney show that I have to get the name of it, because for moms and kids out there, it's really cute. Robo Gobo, I think. Anyway, she booked her on her first audition. She booked it. And then Noah came in and did 2, and he got 2 callbacks for Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And I was excuse me, wait, what is that? Yeah. This was for Mother. No.
Right. You're like, hold on. This was my dream.
It was so awesome that happened too. So during this time, I have really been kind of looking at how can I really tap into what I want to be doing? What legacy do I want to leave? I cannot live vicariously through my child. Mm-hmm. I cannot live my husband's dream only. I have to show up and shine bright. And my light has been pretty dim because I think I've been faking it and pushing it. And that's probably why I'm not as where I need to be yet too, on some level, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, so much of what you just shared resonates with me in the sense that when you're not listening to your intuition, And when you're ignoring your own gifts and talents and hiding behind someone else's dream, the universe, God, whatever you believe, has a way of knocking you over the head.
Right.
And for me, I truly believe that incident, no matter how hard, we never want to say that our health issues or anything is coming into our lives for a reason, but we're here to learn lessons. And we're here to take opportunities to grow and to really push ourselves in a way that is going to show us who we are and what we're capable of. And I don't know that if this hadn't happened, that you wouldn't be where you are right now.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and I think life is about how we take those challenges and turn them into opportunities.
Right.
And you're doing that by choosing you and by choosing to take, your health seriously and your child seriously, but also turn this into an opportunity for growth and for impact for others.
See, and I thank you for saying that. And I think I told you when we first spoke, I don't know if I would have been ready for the mastermind even 5 months ago because I was still treading. And then finally, I decided I'm push and play at all. It's like leap and the net will appear, right? I love that saying.
Yes.
And I think I had forgotten that. I was always a girl that was like, I can do this. I would just show up but then I got off track and I think it started wearing me down. And only I allowed myself to do that. So
for sure. And we do that. I mean, we all do it, right? Like that's like put on the safety mask. Oh, that moment on stage was a pivotal moment that said, I'm not safe.
Right.
I need to protect myself. And that's when you put the cloak on and you protect yourself and you go hide somewhere else.
Right.
And so now I think you've been cracked wide open.
Yes.
And forced to really show yourself again and find your voice through this podcast, through your talent, because you're obviously funny and you obviously are a performer. And so all of those gifts and talents that are innate in you that have been there since birth are begging to come out. And now you've found a path forward that is something that's meaningful to you, meaningful to your son, and meaningful to the community around you. So tell us a little bit about this journey.
Okay, well, it just feels so surreal what you're saying. So thank you. I really appreciate you laying that out like that for me because sometimes I think when you're going through it, or at least I've been too hard on myself to actually take that in and say, oh, we have to be kind to ourselves. The way that we want to talk to our children, we have to do that to ourselves, right? We're all just big kids trying to maneuver through all of this. So the podcast, I was a theater mom, so sports was not my thing. And my husband was always a crazy soccer fanatic. And when we finally got pregnant, that was a journey for us. I could not believe that I had a child that would not watch Baby Einstein, but he would sit for hours watching soccer. Bink, bink, bink. They were like Noah had his dream child. And this is going to sound crazy, but he started kicking the ball at 10 months old.
Wow.
He had a severe dairy protein allergy. And this is another podcast I have to start called Misdiagnosed. He went misdiagnosed for a long time. But I think because his little body was so tense, he started walking very early and ball out the gate was his dream. So at 2 years old, we had a nanny and her husband now, he plays for Bolivia for the soccer team. And he was over here trying to get on Galaxy. And I think he played for Tulsa for a while. So he would take Noah with him because he was training kids on the side. And so at 2, my kid was out there so focused, like he was playing with these 5-year-olds and I would just laugh and I'd be like, what is happening? And so when we moved to the South Bay, we were looking for soccer and things. And we got into AYSO, which is supposed to be developmental, like kids that are just starting out. And
yeah, good luck with that in the South Bay.
I don't think rec play is there is no more rec play, kids. But both Luca and I saw how intense it was out the gate, and I was like, is he being serious right now? It was almost laughable to me. But I also had a child that was really, I want to be careful how I say this, but he was a very strong player. We didn't do anything. He just happened to be sometimes scoring too many goals. Like I'd be like, stop scoring any more goals. Okay, let's go. No, I'm kidding. But it felt awkward sometimes. And that year, the boys in his grade were all super strong athletes. So out the gate, we had these really power teams, like winning all the time. But I saw, and this is not a put down to anyone, because let me tell you, my son lit me up on our first podcast. Remember, when you point a finger, 3 are always pointing back at you. But I saw a lot of dads that I thought were living vicariously through their kids, and moms too.
Right.
But the intensity, and I would see these kids' their faces, and it didn't feel right. And all of a sudden, we were trying to keep up with everyone too, because you have to play soccer, then you got to play baseball, and you got to do basketball. And then wait, now the seasons are overlapping. We would have days where there would be 3 games in one day. And I'm like, and these families were running crazy. Kids changing in the car, shoving food down there.
Yeah.
And I said, we're not doing this. So then I would say, you can choose 1 or 2 games. And then people would not be happy with us because we'd be letting a team down. Or, little things were happening. Well, as we continued this journey, and I should say, in Tunisia, they play very differently. I joke. They kicked a can. No, I'm kidding. Luca knows I can say that. Actually, one day, his brand new soccer ball went onto the roof, and Noah was crying, and it was probably the 15th ball we had bought him that year. And then Luca's like, when I was your age, and he knows I do his accent. I've been doing it for 20 years. When I was your age, we had 1 ball. You got to take it home. You were the king of the neighborhood. Everyone who gets the ball. And then when the ball was flat, we would sew it. And then when it didn't work, we would take newspaper and we would wrap it with tape. And Noah's looking at him and he's like, really, Dad? He's like, so you be grateful for your balls. And as he walked out, I was like, good one, Dad. But it was true. Like, he came from just such a different environment where soccer just was what they did after school every day. So to have these teams, 5-year-olds trying out for club soccer, we were like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But we had a kid who wanted to play sports. So we had to maneuver. We were on teams. We left teams because it didn't feel like the right environment. We had the police called. We've had fights. You know, it got so intense. And every time I would talk to parents, I would see that they didn't really want this either, right? Something has happened where we are winning at all costs. Everything is about the medal. And so it was Noah's idea. He switched over from soccer to pickleball. So he's been doing pro pickleball. He's been on the junior pro pickleball tour this past 7 months.
Wow.
And it's been pretty amazing what he's done. He went in and got cremated, obliterated, but he was like, I am going to do this. And I would be like, are we sure we want to go back? And he worked his way all the way up. He got invited to the Daytona finals.
Wow.
It was an invite only, and he was the wild card against the top kids in the country. And even in this environment, it got out of control. I would just see, like, what is happening? And I think I got to a point where maybe years ago I didn't have hard conversations. I would just be like, I'm not dealing with this. But this tour, you're not going anywhere. You guys are going together. So I was able to have some hard conversations with really uncomfortable things, and beautiful corners turned. And it was really cool to see one dad, if I had not gotten back from my meditation retreat, I probably would have chin chopped him. But I decided, let's center ourselves and let's really talk about this. And some really cool things have happened. So Noah and I he said, Mom, we got to talk about this. And you got to hear from the kids. Everyone always talks to the parents, but what about the kids that are in it? And I was like, this is an amazing idea. And there was another mom that I met so the angle that I'm coming from, I don't know sports, but I know sportsmanship. We have raised Noah. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many goals you score. It's who you are on and off the court.
100%.
And let me tell you, he's gotten backlash for that too, because that's a lonely journey sometimes. And a lot of these coaches, they are teaching kids now body before ball. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. And so I met another mom who I really liked, and she has older boys, and she's been a team mom. And she has just such a great, I joke she's the sage. She bakes bread, and she's always like grounding me. And she comes from such a great angle. We have a similar view, but she's Filipino. So she says, in our culture, we're results oriented. I'm like, we need to have fun. And so we've been able to have some different angles, but where the magic finally happened was we met Brittany Carr, and she's an up-and-coming pro pickleball player. And actually, Noah met her, and he knew her for 6 months, and he kept saying, Mom, you have to meet Brittany. You're going to love her. And when we finally met, she had come out to one of the tours, one of the tournaments, and she said, I see a lot of stuff happening with the juniors, and I really would love to help. She saw a lot of the things that we've been going through. She says there's a lot of tension bubbling under the surface, and I'd love to help with this. So I told her about this idea for the podcast, and the way the name came about was Noah had an experience where he played a boy that was so much better than him, creamed him. And then on a second game, Noah came to me and he's like, I'm getting some points. I said, go out there, do it. And the kid got frustrated, threw the paddle. There were a few things that I was like, oh my gosh, is this allowed? And then Noah played him again, and it was a really close match. And then Noah finally won a gold medal in something he had been working so hard for. And there were a group of boys nice boys, but this is the age. But Noah kind of went down on his knees when he won the medal, and I was standing off, and I saw the boys and a dad, and they kind of imitated him. And I was like, excuse me. I said, hey guys. I said, he's worked really hard to get that medal, and he really looks up to all of you.
I love that you said something.
I think they were shocked because even the dad's face was like,
good. Call him out right in the moment, but in a classy way.
And I just said, that was really poor sportsmanship. And, the little boy ran over to me after and he apologized, which I thought was great. And I said, you're such a great player. So I said, thank you. Well, they ended up against each other in a gold medal match that ended up being televised. And that night at dinner, Noah said, Mom, I have to tell you something that was better than the medal. And it gives me the chills.
Wow. I have the chills. I just knocked my microphone into my face because that really is so cool how he came up with that.
It's funny because so he said afterwards, he came over to me and he's like, hey, Noah. And Noah won the silver. He didn't win gold, but he said, hey, Noah. He's like, I met you like 5 or 6 months ago, or I should say 7 months ago. And you weren't a very good pickleball player. You have a funky serve. Nobody wanted to partner with you. He's like, but look at you. He's like, you've been working so hard and you ended up here in the gold medal match. He's like, you've done a really great job.
Wow.
And I thought that was so beautiful. And I forgot about that a little bit. But I got to tell the dad at the next tournament, I just said, hey, I want to share with you how special this was. And then when I was telling Brittany that story, she said, that's the name of your podcast, Better Than the Medal.
I love that.
And I said, oh my gosh. And then a very cool thing, the boys they've partnered since that. So what a beautiful turn, right?
100%.
And I share that story not to shame anyone in that, because listen, any of us could be in that moment, right?
Of course.
There are so many times, like I said, Noah blew me up on the first podcast. He said to me, Mom, you got to stop coaching me from the sideline. And I'm like, coaching you? I'm like, I don't even know anything about pickleball. And he's like, exactly. He said that I tell him sometimes while he's playing, quit hitting the net. And I'm like, I say that? And so we had a moment, you guys, on camera where we kind of unearthed all of this. And he said, I said, I don't even realize I'm saying that. And a lot of times he tells me that my facial expressions get into his head. And as parents, I don't even think we realize this.
I love that you're talking about this. This is so important because I think we've all been there in the moment, right? We've all been that dad
of course.
Had that kid that wasn't behaving the way that we would hope, the sportsmanship.
Yes.
But in the moment, I mean, my sons play sports as well. My older son plays baseball in high school, and we've been through the years of Little League of this mentality that has just taken over our community. It's beyond. It's absolutely ridiculous. I grew up a performer as well, not an athlete. So I am so where you are, and just wanted to go and watch my kids play and have fun. But we all witness this, and it doesn't stop in youth sports. It continues, and it definitely continues in high school. And I witness it with parents that will pout on the sidelines and complain that their kids aren't playing enough or whatever. So what is the purpose behind this podcast to really get parents to start thinking about youth sports, or just sports in general in a different way, or to actually like give them tools and tips to help them like on the sidelines, because we're all in that moment sometimes. There are moments where I'm like literally like on the edge of my seat because my son's pitching or he's at bat and he's had a slump, and I'm like, oh my God, please, God, please. Why is this so important to us?
Well, yeah, because our egos flare up, right? A lot of it comes from unsettled stuff within ourselves.
Right.
So I love that you're asking this question, because one of the main things that we said is we did not want this podcast to be a bitch fest, excuse my language, or sitting and complaining. And I have found that it's so easy in life to sit and gossip and talk and complain. And then are we ever really getting any solutions?
Right.
So what we want this to be about is let's get curious. And we are bringing on coaches, parents, kids. We really want people to walk away with tools. So, because we all have it. I mean, like he just said that, Mom, you at this last tournament, you know, you were doing some things when I'm seeing dads like signaling timeouts with their hats, but clearly I'm doing my own version of that for my child.
Right.
So what the hope is of this is that we're going to be bringing on people to really help people just reflect and look at themselves and how can we make changes? What are things that you're going to hear from hopefully really high level people that have raised really great athletes? And we also want to hear from the people that are okay with that too, because that's fascinating to me. I have met some dads where they're like, I want my coach swearing at my kids.
Yes.
You know, some people really want to have a different angle. And so I want to unearth it. That's kind of where, and really hope that people can look at this and see how are they connecting with their children. You know, another episode that we're going to do, but I was talking to some parents on the tour and we were just saying something about date night. And they laughed. They're like, date night? They're like, the tournament is our date.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I get that, because we're all, especially if you have multiple kids, you're running in so many directions. We're thinking we're doing this for the kids. But then sometimes if the outcomes don't work, then what's happened with the connection from the child to the parent?
Correct.
I just think there's so much here to talk about and really hope that it can help people, you know, and be kind to ourselves through it. I'm going to be very vulnerable. Like I said, if I'm here to point any fingers, I have to be looking at why we're in it. We're in the thick of it. So who am I to say anything really, right?
Right.
But so that's what
But
our
you
hope
have,
is.
and what you've done is you've taken your gifts and your purpose and you've turned it into something, your talents with being able to communicate and articulate and express things in a funny and unique way, and turn it into impact that's going to make a difference in people's lives. So we are fortunate that you are, launching this show.
Thank
and I
you.
can't wait to, I'm going to be there for the first episode as soon as it drops. And I can't wait. And then we're going to get all of you back in the studio once after or maybe right before it airs. We'll see the timing of it.
Great.
And really dive into, the stories behind all three of you, how this came to be, how you all are envisioning taking this, and how you can help families. Really, at the end of the day, it's about helping families not let this consume their lives and take it down a negative path, because sports is supposed to be fun.
Right.
Sports is supposed to be a great outlet and positive and all these things. So it's so important. Thank you, Laura, for being here.
Oh my gosh.
Your story is incredible. I am so grateful to you for coming in today and being so just raw and authentic and sharing with us this journey that you've been on. And I'm so grateful that you're in the mastermind and that you're in my life. And I can't wait. We're going to share all the ways that you can get in touch with Laura and listen to her new podcast, Better Than the Medal. Oh my God, best name ever now that I know where it came from. And thank you all for listening and for supporting the show and downloading every episode. And I can't wait to see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this episode beneficial. And if you feel compelled to do so, share it with a friend who might benefit too. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Reach out to me anytime on my website at jenmentesana.com.